So one of the things that has heavily been talked about in the past couple of years about the Metropolitan Division is how it's going to take a just dramatic change in its standings. Teams like the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins are just going to fall off and be really bad. And teams like the Devils and the Hurricanes, if they haven't already risen already, they're going to start rising, and everyone else is pretty much just in the middle. It seems like that's kind of already happening with the Washington Capitals. This season has been pretty bad so far. Just about 20 games in, this team has really not looked that good whatsoever. And I know it's still relatively early. We're not even 25, 30 games into the year. But it looks very concerning how the Washington Capitals are playing right now. So their overall record right now, they've played 20 games, as I said. They are 7-10-3 with 17 points. They've scored 55 goals and only let in 67. And they are 2-6-2 in their last 10. They were pretty solid in October. I thought they were okay. They were kind of middle of the road, but they seemed all right in October, and then the injuries started piling up. We'll get into those a little bit later. But looking at their previous 10 games, this is brutal. Against Vegas, and actually no, I didn't include overtimes. A couple of these were in overtime, I will say that. And even some before this in October, they weren't in the last 10 games, but a lot of these were overtime games. Vegas, 3-2 loss in overtime. Unfortunate 2018 Stanley Cup rematch. Honestly, when it goes to overtime, I don't say this too often, but honestly, the game could go either way. I mean, at that point, it doesn't matter what happened before or after. The game could really go either way at that point in overtime. As for Detroit, they lost 3-1. So, obviously, Detroit's a pretty solid team. Arizona, they lost 3-2, and they were up 2-0 in that game. They should have definitely won that. That was actually the game where Alex Ovechkin broke the record for the most goals scored in a single franchise. They should have won that, but Nick Ritchie came back and won it for the Coyotes. They should have won that game, though. That was when I got concerned. Against Edmonton, they beat them 5-4, so a pretty impressive bounce-back win there from, I think, a 4-game losing streak or something like that. And then they play Pittsburgh, who at that point lost 8 straight games, and they lost 4-1. Just a brutal game overall. You never really see stuff like that happen. The Capitals should have beat them. I know the Penguins and the Capitals are a very fierce rivalry, and the Penguins definitely play different when they play the Capitals, but the Capitals still should have won. This team lost 8 straight games, and yeah, not good. Then they bounced back against Tampa and won 5-1. I knew that team was going to have some anger in them, so they obviously bounced back against Tampa. Then they played Tampa again, so back-to-back games, and they lost. They lost 6-3. Then they played Florida, lost 5-2, so their Florida road trip didn't go so well. Then they played St. Louis, and they were down 3-0 in that first period. And Cats fans were going ballistic. That was not a fun game to watch, definitely. I actually watched that game. That was one of the few games that I've watched for the Capitals so far this season. That was brutal. They did come back in the end, though. They lost in a shootout, but still pretty brutal. And then their most recent game was against the Colorado Avalanche, and they lost 4-0. Brutal. That was a brutal loss to go through. I mean, yeah, Colorado won the Cup. They're one of the best teams in the league, but still a brutal loss. And honestly, when you look at this team, they are down so many people. They are down so many key players that have been key to this roster for the past couple of years. It's a wonder that they're actually 7-10-3. You would think they'd be worse when you look at some of the players that are out. There's still some of the main guys in, like Ovechkin's in, Kuznetsov's in, Carlson's in, but there's still a lot of people missing, and that's the biggest thing. Nicholas Backstrom, the biggest one, he's out. He's out, and that is very concerning. Backstrom hasn't played in a while. Yeah, very, very concerning that he's still injured. Connor Brown, also out. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, or maybe even 6 to 8 months, if I'm correct. So he's probably done for the season. Hagelin's also out. No time return on him so far. Still very concerning there. Tom Wilson, I think that's obviously one of the biggest ones. He's out as well. That's very concerning. And then obviously TJ Oshie is out as well. That is 5 significant players to their top 6. Honestly, 5. When you look at this roster, really, Backstrom's in their top 6. Wilson's in their top 6. Oshie's probably in their top 6. And Connor Brown probably filtered through their top 6. And obviously a guy like Carl Hagelin, he's your third-line player. Still, though, that is a significant amount of players that are not in your team. And it's definitely affected a player like Alex Ovechkin. When you look at Ovechkin, 9 goals, 8 assists for 7 points in 20 games played. He still looked all right, but usually we see more goals out of him by now. Only 9 goals through 20 games played. We usually see more at this point in the season. And with Backstrom out, it's definitely affected him 100%. And I think really, kind of goes to show how clutch Backstrom was to a guy like Alex Ovechkin. You see this in the NHL all the time. Brent Hull and Adam Oates, that's one of the biggest examples. There's a couple others, but you need some player like that to give you the passes to score the goals, and so far Ovechkin hasn't done that. I know he's very close to passing Gordie Howe for second all time, and that's an unbelievable statistic, but he is missing Backstrom, man. He really is. Then you look at second in scoring when a guy like Backstrom's out, when all these players are out. Somebody's got to step up, and it's been Dylan Strome. I don't think people thought Dylan Strome would be this good to start the year. 5 goals, 10 assists for 15 points in 20 games played. Yeah, he got all the time in the world in Chicago to really get his stats up, and he didn't do it. He just couldn't do it at all. And he's played pretty good so far in Washington. 100% agree with that. Then you got Evgeny Kuznetsov, who has looked snake bit. 2 goals, 12 assists for 14 points in just 20 games played. That 2 goals is concerning. When I saw that, I'm like, wow, he really has 2 goals. He's not like the Kuznetsov we used to see, but still, 2 goals is very concerning, to be honest. That is, I got no words. Then you have John Carlson, who's playing solid so far. 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points in just 20 games played. I will say this, though. With Carlson playing so well, I've noticed he's been getting an unbelievable amount of minutes. And we'll get into the defensive players that are out. I haven't even mentioned everyone. That's just the offensive players that aren't in the lineup right now. But as of right now, Carlson's been getting boatloads of minutes. We're talking like Thomas Chabot level minutes. So I think, honestly, the Capitals might want to give some of the more of those defenders more extra time instead of Carlson, because you don't want to end up with a scenario like Carlson or like Chabot where he gets hurt. Don't want that to happen. So I think maybe they should reduce Carlson's ice time. He's a great defender, 100%, but I think they still should reduce it a little bit. Connor Sheary up next. He's 5th in scoring with 7 goals, 3 assists for 10 points. He's looked all right for a player who's supposed to be playing the bottom 6 role, but is actually playing a top 6 role. So kind of interesting there. Sheary's looked all right so far through 20 games into the season. And again, they are down Backstrom, Brown, Hagelin, Wilson, and Oshie. Yeah, that is rough, 100%. When you look at their defense, their core is, that's ugly. Apart from Carlson, that blue line is not good. You have Nick Jensen, who has 1 goal, 9 assists for 10 points in just 20 games played. He's actually a +3. He's looked pretty solid. He's looked okay so far. So he's putting up some assists. He's doing all right on that Washington blue line. Was always a good defender. Eric Gustafsson. You guys remember me back in 2021 when this guy signed with the Flyers? I think I even made a video about it. I think there's a video here on the channel talking about the Gustafsson signing. I hated it. Or actually, no, I liked it at the time, but then I hated Gustafsson by the time he was traded to Montreal. Yeah. And again, how is this guy still getting jobs in the NHL? 0 goals, 7 assists for 7 points. A -10. How is he still in the NHL? Honest to God, I can't get it through my head. He is crazy. And to add on to that too, Orlov's out. So another really solid key top 4 defenseman for the Capitals is out. So definitely been a rough year for the Capitals injury-wise. Yeah, not good at all. And honestly, Backstrom, the odds of him returning are actually very slim. So that's not good for Ovechkin at all. Wilson should be back soon, relatively. I don't know about Hagelin and Oshie, but I do know that Brown will be out until probably late February, even if that. But Wilson should be back probably by at the latest January. But we'll see. There's still a lot of time left. Orlov, I'm not even sure about either. But what you think, with all these bad stats that we're talking about here, you think their goaltending would be bad? Not really. Their goaltending stats are actually okay, relatively. You look at Darcy Kemper, obviously the goalie they brought in in the offseason. Has looked actually solid so far. Although his record's pretty bad, 5-9-1. His other stats, like his 2.83 goals against average and his .907 save percentage, are actually relatively okay, comparatively speaking, when you look at this team. Definitely shocking when I saw that. As for Charlie Lindgren, their other backup goaltender, again, they revamped the whole goalie tandem. That he is 2-1-2 with a 3.13 goals against average and a .905 save percentage through 6 games played. So he's looked okay so far. The goaltending actually hasn't looked all too terrible. It's kind of the blue line that's really starting to really kind of fall apart here on Washington. But, yeah. So you look at this. Who's to blame here? Who is at fault for the Capitals' struggles? Is it injuries? You honestly could say that. I think you could. But then you look at a team like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, time and again, and I know Pittsburgh's a bad example because they're Washington's rival, but time and again, Pittsburgh has been piled up with injuries, and they still play good. So why isn't Washington doing the same? That is kind of the other way you can look at that. Is it the coach? That could be what you need. I mean, like a new voice wouldn't be bad. I mean, Laviolette's been on this team since 2021, so that's about 2 seasons. I don't think they want to fire him just yet. Not really. I mean, like, is it the players? I mean, like, you could make a trade, but like, what is it gonna do to you when, let's say you go out and trade for somebody like, I don't know, some kind of top 6 forward or some kind of defenseman? The D market's already dry as it is. Ottawa's been trying, and they haven't gotten any success. Let's say you go out and trade for a D, and then Orlov comes back, or not even Orlov, like Backstrom or Wilson, or even like someone like Connor Brown, who has a pretty, solid contract. What are you gonna do then? So I mean, like, really, it's kind of confusing what Washington should do next. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Is this just a bad start? Will they turn this around, or could this be something much worse than we think? But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. For Ice Porters, I really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe down below if you are new. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.